the hero's journey is something that we should have been taught in school, because if we can apply the hero's journey to our own lives, then it's going to be extremely, extremely beneficial for us in terms of living a life that we think is really worth living. And you can do that. And there's books and there's systems and there's things to think about. And I just want to challenge you, like, are you strong enough, like mentally, emotionally, physically, to look at yourself, look at your life, and apply the concepts of the hero's journey to yourself, and then make those decisions to make the slight little changes in order to live like the best life that you literally can. So guys, welcome back to the About Wellbeing podcast. We're on episode, is it 55, 56, something like that. Big shout out to you guys. Thanks for listening. Thanks for coming on with me for this journey. This hero's journey. No, kidding. Just quickly before we get started, if you guys go onto my website, CoreyBoutWell.com, scroll to the bottom, click on the blog, you can get the 12% off bone broth discount. I also have a recipe ebook, which I strongly encourage you guys to go out there, purchase, and have a little bit of a look, because I'm getting like some awesome feedback from the recipe ebook of people are eating all these foods and they're feeling really good and they're like, wow. Get these messages from people saying, it is amazing how just a small shift of what I'm eating has such a massive change to my energy. I know, right? How fantastic is that? So without further ado, I'm going to get... Oh, by the way, if you like this podcast, please share it with someone. We're going to get deep. This podcast, we're getting deep. Very philosophical, whatever that word is. This is the stuff that I like to study and the stuff that I like to use in order to motivate my clients to do better, to be better, and to understand that they need to stick to some of the small things. It's everything that we need to do in our life is always incredibly simple, majority of the time, and like to live a better life. But being motivated to do them is a difficult thing. And all of this stuff helps give motivation. Now, the one thing, as a little warning with this podcast, with the hero's journey, is that if you listen to it and you just think like, fuck what I'm doing in my life right now, I'm changing it to do something else, do it, but just do it slowly. Like, don't just dive into whatever you're doing straight away, because you experience some resistance there. So basically, what is the hero's journey? So the hero's journey is something that Joseph Campbell, a philosopher, he invented, and I read the book, I've got it here, Hero with 1,000 Faces, and it applies to like 100 other different things. But basically, sort of every single story that you've maybe listened to, every single movie that you've watched, all the really good ones follow the hero's journey. So I'm just going to explain firstly, why is the hero's journey important? Well, it's extremely important because since the dawn of time, like what Joseph Campbell did was he kind of went across all different tribes, all different religions, and wrote a book called A Hero with 1,000 Faces, meaning that they all tell the same stories. Like all these different religions, all these different tribes, all have the same stories of like the hero, and it's like the same sort of steps they go through, but it's just been applied and it's just everywhere, like in all the different things and all the really good ones, which is very like interesting. And then when the really good movies that you watch follow the same journey. And I'll get into that in a little bit. Like the real good ones like Star Wars, Harry Potter, Lion King, all of those just follow all these different myths. Like this is all mythical stuff. Like this guy loved myths, studied myth at uni, went out, started figuring all these myths, and then come up with this thing called the hero's journey. And literally those really good movies like Harry Potter, Lion King, Star Wars, is there any others in there? Probably. The Hobbit. So they are all literally, love this guy, followed his journey process in order to make a really good story. Now, what is really important to note is that you can apply this to your own life, and you should, especially for men, but we should all be following this sort of hero's journey because we're all on one. We're all on a hero's journey somewhere, whatever it is. And if we're not on the hero's journey, then that is when we start to feel depressed or anxious, or we lose energy, or we become lethargic, blah, 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 etc., etc., etc. You start going downhill just in general. But we're on multiple different heroes. So we kind of have like one big hero's journey with our own life, and then we're on multiple different hero's journeys. So you have a hero's journey with your career, you could have a hero's journey with fitness, you could have a hero's journey with family. But then it's like, for your whole life, what are you actually doing? Where's the hero's journey going? Now, yeah, I'll get into it. I'm going to explain the hero's journey. So what is the hero's journey? I don't get it. So it's sort of like, it's an adventure that we go on and apply to our own lives. I'm going to use the story of like a movie right now. I'll probably use The Hobbit because it's very easy to follow along. And then what we do is we transfer this to our own lives. And a lot of the time, this is all around the topic of like initiation and becoming initiated into something else. So for an example, if you apply Bilbo Baggins, Hobbit, lives in the Shire, it's very comfortable. And a lot of time, hero's journey causes you to get out your comfort zone just a little bit every single day to unlock your unlimited potential and then, live life with those gifts. So Bilbo Baggins, in the Shire, extremely comfortable, keeps getting called to go out onto an adventure, which is the first step of the hero's journey. I'll say them real quickly. So the steps of the hero's journey are just someone living wherever they are, normal, known world, very comfortable. They get a call to adventure. They refuse the call to adventure. They get someone to help them, which is called supernatural aid. They cross the threshold, so they go from their new world into a different world. They meet new allies, new enemies, and that's sort of like the trials and the tests of, they use the word tribulation, and then at the very bottom of the hero's journey, because it works in a circle. If you guys do the notes, I'll put a link to like just a picture, you can see it, and you'll be like, oh god, that's what it looks like. Super easy. It's everywhere. If you Google hero's journey on Google Images, there's hundreds of different circles for it. When you get to the bottom, you finally, what they use mythologically, say, slay the dragon, or get the skill, get the gold from the dragon's cave. And then what happens is your mentor, whoever's helped you, usually dies. Then you got to, battle and resist temptations with the gold. And then it's the road back to where you initially started. And you sort of bring, there's a different, hold on, I'm just going to click on something else here because this one doesn't explain it. Atonement is the thing. So you transform. So once you've gone to the abyss, you've slayed the dragon, you've got the gold, you go through transformation, you go through tests and temptations, and then you get through this place where you got to atone. And they don't mean atone, that means like you got to share your gifts. And then you return back to the world with like the known world, and you're like a new person. You have these new gifts, you've got these new experiences, and you're not the same. You're different. But in terms of the hero's journey, what you want to do for your own life is follow that sort of method and come up with certain like values, wisdoms, gifts, energies, whatever you like personal gifts, whatever you think is really important, and then apply that to where you're at now. So for example, like if just like in like Australia, for an example, is if like, let's say you go on a big Europe trip for like a year, you know what I mean? That is definitely going onto a hero's journey. And like you feel really called to, like I need to go and do a big Europe trip. I don't understand why, but I just feel like I need to do it. You go there, you go for a year, and then you come back. It's like you're a different person. You're a lot more cultured. You've learned new things. You've had new experiences. You're a little bit sharper. You're a little bit, you may be a little bit more weathered, but you may be a little bit more energetic and smarter and whatever it is. So you've gone on a journey, come out. Same as someone starting a business. Start a new business. Let's say it gets really successful. They live at home with their parents, then they come back like 10 years later, not to live or anything, but just to like visit, hang out with the parents and the family and stuff. And they're like, you've changed. You've learned some skills. You've got some abundance, or whatever it is. So there's all different hero's journeys, and they can turn sour, but they can be extremely positive. So as I'm saying this, I like to think about like your own life, where you're sort of at with the hero's journey, where you find a calling to. So Bilbo Baggins felt a calling to go on an adventure. Do you see that? You know that meme of Bilbo like running with the thing, like, I'm going on an adventure. He gets a call to adventure. He has a wizard come to his place to try and get him to come out. We need you, come out here, do this. Then he gets all the dwarves come knocking on his door, and he's like, what is going on here? I'm just trying to live a simple life. Same with like Harry Potter. Harry Potter was just living. He was like a wizard, but he's just in a house, didn't know anything else, getting bullied, blah, 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 blah. Then the owl comes in, sends a note, and the owl sends all these bloody notes, and he's trying to accept the call to adventure, but keeps getting refused. And then eventually, what's his face in? Big guy comes in and turns his stepbrother's bum into a pig or some shit like that. Anyway, so yes, there's the refusal to the call, and the next step is you get someone who's supernatural aid, or someone to help them through, someone to mentor them into the new world, not the unknown world. And who that is in Bilbo Baggins is obviously Gandalf. He helps them. He takes him away from the Shire and into the world of like the Lord of the Rings, where there's fucking elves, where there's like giant like creatures and dragons and all types of things and all these different stuff that they got to do. Same with Harry Potter, and like obviously he goes into Hogwarts, which is a wizard world, a whole new world. Star Wars, Luke Skywalker, his whole family gets like that he knows gets murdered, and then he goes and meets Obi-Wan Kenobi, and then Obi-Wan Kenobi takes him to the land of Star Wars, you know what I mean? So that's sort of the crossing to the threshold. From then you got to go through all the trials. So for Bilbo Baggins, it's like him becoming a... and if you need to learn any more of this, guys, you want to study more, like Jordan Peterson goes through some of this like quite well. But Bilbo Baggins goes through... with the dwarfs, going out all the tests and trials. They're got to go through all these crazy forests. They're getting chased by the orcs. They're doing all these things. They're meeting all these enemies, but they're making new allies with different people, like the big bear dude and all those other people in that movie. And if you can think about it with Harry Potter makes like Voldemort's enemy and all the dark people are enemies, but he makes friends with Hermione and Ron and all of that. And then eventually there's like an ordeal. So for Bilbo Baggins, it was to go into the dragon's cave and try and get that stone, whatever it is. It's very similar, Harry Potter, same thing. He goes into the lair of Voldemort in the, like say the first movie, and they got the Philosopher's Stone, and he goes out there and grabs it. And it was obviously in his pocket the whole time. Some cool symbolism there. But anyway, they get the gold, they get the stone, the Philosopher's Stone, and then they come back out, and then something happens, like usually the death of a mentor or whatever it is, but they've changed. They're different. So there's a transformation. Harry has the gold. He's learnt these skills like being able to use magic. Bilbo has, he's a different person. He's been like a thief, and he's learnt these different skills and got all these riches in terms of like treasures and all those different things. And then Harry Potter brings that back to like the normal world. He returns to his like room and he's got all these skills of magic that he can use, but he doesn't. And same thing, Bilbo Baggins goes back to the Shire, and after like this crazy adventure, and everyone just treats him exactly the same, but he's different. He's got his riches, he's got this knowledge, he understands everything. So that's sort of like how the hero's journey works. Now, there is some real interesting things to say here in terms of symbolically how we use this for like our own life, and sort of for men in particular. One of our goals should always be to, and it's unconscious as well. We have a goal when we're kids. It's definitely meant to see to be like, oh, I'd love to have this sort of business, or I'd love to have my own empire. I'd love to be like a very type of king symbolized person, king type of energy, where I have a master of my own thing, have my own family, do this and make all the decisions and do the stuff. Now, the hero's journey is sort of like, if you find a call to that, for example, like starting a business or wanting to be an athlete or wanting to start a charity or whatever it is, and create all your stuff, or whatever your personal goal is, it's like, okay, now you start to go through that journey all the way around, come back, and then once you've set things up and you've sort of landed at the top there and you have returned, it's like, cool, this is sort of like, I have some sort of king type of energy here for me, which I have mastered. And a lot of guys never get that. Like, never, ever, ever, ever achieve that. And a lot of people see as like famous people achieve it without going on the hero's journey. And then there's like a huge disconnect. And then you see them like self-sabotage themselves, take drugs, blah, blah, blah. Like Justin Bieber's probably a really good example of like, childhood star, bang, didn't actually go through the journey like properly. And then like had that episode out on Netflix now. He's like taking hell drugs and like trying to get over himself mentally and having all these problems because he didn't get to like slowly come out of his comfort zone for that. He's just kind of put into a king position straight away without learning any of the skills for how to do it. So one thing that I like to think is really important here is like, the goal for it too should also not be material gifts. When you go on a hero's journey for yourself and you think about that, it's sort of like, what's your passion? What's your purpose? And you know that when you're on the right path of your purpose, it's going to be a lot less likely that you will experience things like anxiety and depression. Essentially, the hero's journey, if you're following it correctly, like the one that's called out for you, and you've accepted the calling, starting a business or whatever it is, and you start doing all the things in line with that, then you get excited. Or you go, like, got to go, you're going to go trip or travel for a while, you start to get excited. It feels like you're pulling from the mountain, you're not pushing up the mountain. Like you're pulling like a let's say a big rock up the mountain, you're not pushing it. So it's a little bit easier. That's what it should feel like. But the goal shouldn't be material gifts, because if you're doing it like, oh, I want to go out here to get like a car, it's very superficial, and like that'll never work. It needs, like, on the hero's journey, you need like extraordinary effort, and to come back with the gift, and the gold will always be something like internal, that you can sort of emanate back to whatever your known, in quotations, world is, which is really handy. So the goal shouldn't be material gifts, but a lot of the time they do come out as side effects depending on what you want to do. Like monks, for example, that have their own hero's journey. I'd like to be a monk and become like enlightened. So they go on the hero's journey. You're like, do I become a monk? No, do not become a monk. Okay, I will. Then they got to start doing the things. They get a teacher, someone else is a monk, to help them, teach them how to meditate, do all the things. Then when they do start to experience snippets of enlightenment, they're like, oh yes, this is the gold. And then they got to bring it back and teach other people. So a lot of the time when you get to king type of energy, it's good to teach other people. But what is also really important to know is that when you do one lap of the hero's journey, if you ever do, you immediately start another one. It's sort of like, when people use that analogy of with your life, when you got to climb the mountain, you get to the top and realize there's another mountain that's twice as big. That's sort of like the hero's journey. And every time if you ever get to the top of one, poof, you're on another one. But you always notice that the hero's journey always starts with the role of initiation, for you to get initiated to something. It could be like a group of people you want to hang out with. It could be you're playing soccer, and it could be like, a Div 1 or Federation, whatever it is, or you want to play state soccer, whatever it is. So you got to go on the hero's journey to do all the crazy training. You got to be like, suffer the injuries, suffer the tests, go for all the mental stuff, do everything, get some really good soccer skills, get a coach to help you out, and then eventually get good enough that you'll go up into the teams, which is I think like a handy analogy to know. So if you're not on the journey, right, which is very interesting, you will fill your life in with distractions. I think that's very important to know. So if you're not actually on the hero's journey itself, you will fill your life in with distractions and new things all the time. Oh, I'm going to get like a PS4 and start playing games. Oh, I'm going to like start up go-karting. Oh, I'm going to try this new thing here. Oh, I just bought a bike and now I'm going to start bike riding. Oh, I'm just going to do this. When you keep getting distracted and you're not sticking to one thing for a long period of time, it's know that you're not on the hero's journey properly. Oh, and I don't want to take that away from anyone. I want to repeat that again. So if you're not on the hero's journey, or you're not on the journey, or the journey that you're supposed to be following with your life, you will fill your life in with ridiculous amounts of distractions. There could be phone, it could be social media, it could be distracting yourself, seeing people all the time and feeling like you need to see people and you can't get comfort and you can't be alone, because when you're alone you think about your life and how your life isn't where it wants to be, and that's hard to face. So then you constantly fill yourself with distractions. Either it's going away on trips or doing something else or blah, 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 blah. Whatever it is. Even things like for me personally, like I find I'll just read lots or try to learn lots. So it's like, no, you got to actually start doing stuff with your life, man. Get your ass off. And it's very interesting. If you're not on the journey, you'll fill your life in with distractions. Another one is the energy for life decreases. This is all stuff from Robert Moore, by the way, if you guys want to like look out a little bit more on this or just listen to it. I hope I'm not overwhelming you guys because it's some pretty crazy stuff. But I think it's really important to know. I think it's really, really, really important to know. So please focus, zone in. Even if you need to, just go back a few 15 seconds or for a few 30 seconds, get a refresh, and then come back into this because we're getting into the deep stuff now. So energy for life decreases when we feel our life is coming to the end of its usefulness. And you don't feel useful when you're not on the hero's journey. I'll repeat that again. Energy for life decreases when we feel our life is coming to the end of its usefulness. So one of the things that obviously if we're passionate about something and we do like our purpose and we do find that we're really useful, we're going to have a lot of energy. For example, if you need to really go out on a holiday or travel to Europe for a year, keep using that example, or start a business the next minute. For me, like when I first started these podcasts, I had this energy that come out of nowhere. I was like, oh my gosh, I just need to do these podcasts. And I have all this energy every time. I'm like, I just prioritize them and boom, it blows my mind how much energy I have whenever I think about podcasts. But when I'm not doing something that's not as useful, you start to feel lethargic, tired, blah, 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 all the rest of it. and your energy for life literally decreases, and you'll start to notice that. And then that's where distractions come in. The hero's journey sort of goes through what you call is like your own hero's journey that you're on now is your current life world. That's the term that we're going to use. And you're either on the hero's journey, going around in a circle, going down for the call to adventure, going through the trials, hitting the bottom of the circle, which is slaying the dragon, getting the gold, and then transforming and coming back up. A lot of people's current life world, which will use the current hero's journey, is just flat. Like they're not going anywhere. It's just like they're just going one way. They're not going down and back up again. And it's like, what's your current life world versus your new one? And if your current life world and like your ideal one aren't matching, then you will get like depression. And ancestrally, we know this, which is very interesting, right? So ancestrally, through thousands of years ago, through a lot of tribals and different religions, they pointed out that if you're not trying to integrate your purpose with your current life world or current hero's journey, you will suffer depression. Like that'll just come. And it was natural. They knew that in all the different tribes and stuff. But now, because depression and anxiety is such like a thing that we see as a problem, our medical systems try to numb us from it. So it's like, okay, you've got all these meds and take all these drugs because you're suffering depression and anxiety, whatever it is. Let's give you like all these phones. Let's do these like courses. You got all these different distractions. You're so abundant in things within food and heading out for food and like just like all different social media platforms and things you can do with that, or events and things that we put on. Like there's all distractions for what you really like actually want to do with your life, because in quotes, it feels like it makes people happy when it doesn't. It's just a distraction from what you really want to do. And I've found that out personally. I just get real vulnerable right now, is that like sometimes I find it hard to communicate with some like old friends of mine and things when I head out, because all I want to do is talk about this stuff, right? Health, being better, all this stuff, because I really feel that like I'm on my path at the moment and I'm on that hero's journey, trying to make all these things happen and manifest the best life ever, baby. Right? But the thing is that like when I start talking to people and they're talking about the distractions that they're on and they're talking about, you know, other things that they're doing, and then I start asking deep life questions because I love talking about that all the time, is they'll just sort of back off a little bit. And they're like, oh, I don't want to talk about that. I'm like, oh, shit, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. And I feel like I can't contribute to conversations sometimes because I'm not doing things like for example, heading out partying, which is a lot of people don't anyway, but heading out and partying, for example, going out and watching the movies and, you know, going to events and spending for me personally, I get a lot more fulfillment when my friends come around, we cook really something healthy and have a really big philosophical conversation and get into the sauna and have an early night and go to bed and then get up and create some awesome content and like design the best life possible. I love that stuff. And like for me, it feels like awesome. I feel like I'm on the journey, on like a really good journey. Now the thing is that like currently, like what I'm trying to say is that tribally and ancestrally is that it was known that people would always suffer symptoms of depression and anxiety. And that's why they had so many, like, you could say old wise men or old wise women in like tribes and things, where like, you know, if you just think about the Native American Indians, just like in the movies and stuff, they'd always have like a chief, like a big chief of the tribe who's like very old and very wise. And then they'd have like the chiefess who would like, and they would sort of look after everyone in the tribe and help them out just with like advice and like help them with things, what to do. We don't have that now. So instead what we do is we see everything as a problem and go, you need to distract yourself. You need some meds. We'll put on these events for you. So don't worry about it. And then you won't be on any hero's journey doing what you really, really love and passionate about. And then you get like all crazy other certain symptoms. Now, yeah, so that's why I think as well, like social media sort of impacts the hero's journey, and you sort of can have your own hero's journey on social media. Like, for example, if you wanted to become like an influencer or something like that, for an example, or the way you go and use social media, if it's for business or whatever, there's also hero's journey on there. So I just wanted to put a little note there. I'm like, as I was writing some of these notes out, I was like, shit, like, it's not just a hero's journey in our lives. Like, we have hero's journey like on our phones now too. Crazy. We're so integrated. So yeah, so the reason why like this is really important to know, and like what would be the solution to anxiety and depression, and how the chief and chiefess would help people guide through this, was just to simply offer wisdom and help people to question themselves all the time. and spend time questioning, like all religions and all different things, just in terms of like meditation, being still, having like certain ceremonies and initiation type ceremonies, which are part of like the hero's journey. Like for example, like if you're joining a group and it's a fitness group and they have a certain fitness challenge and you're not allowed to join the group, like, or be in whatever until you complete the fitness challenge, or like the Navy SEALs, you got to complete this like crazy Hell Week or whatever it is. You go around, crush Hell Week, and then you're initiated, you're in the gang. That's sort of like the hero's journey. And then like you start from then like, okay, so now what do I want to do? I'm in the gang. This is awesome. Do I want to do my own thing? Do I want to teach other people? Do I want to climb up? You know, what's the next hero's journey from there? But so anyway, sorry. The symptom, or not the symptom, the answer to finding out how to fight the symptoms of depression and anxiety is, it's just spending time and going through certain initiations and having certain ceremonies in order to find out what your passion and what your purpose is. So like if you guys listen to my last podcast, Purpose, Danger, and a Beauty to Fight For. And if I just asked you the question, like right now, like real listen, if I asked you the question, why are you alive? Why are you alive? What's your purpose? And why are you alive? Fuck, it's such a hard question to answer, right? I mean, just think about that like, I don't know. So we should be spending time thinking about that. Because if we're chasing that and going after it, then hopefully we can jump on a hero's journey. And there's another quote that Robert Moore used. I just listened to it this morning. I was like, oh, that's so handy for this podcast. And he's like, where is the fountain of regenerative energy to find the power of creativity to start a new foundation to create the world for yourself? Ooh, he just said that on one of his lectures. I love that so much. I'll repeat it again. Where is the fountain of regenerative energy to find the power of creativity to start the new foundations to create the world for yourself? Oh, I love that so much. So like in terms of where is the foundation of regenerative energy, you just got to think like, like where is it? It's sort of when you find what you want to do with your life and your purpose, that regenerative energy will come. One of those things for me, I'm not sure exactly what my purpose is, but I believe that I'm alive to consistently overcome myself and inspire others to do the same. That is like my one-liner. And I know that one of the things that in order to get me there was podcasts, because when I thought about it, I got really fucking excited and got all this crazy energy. So I just want to ask you the question, where is the fountain of regenerative energy for you? When you start thinking about things you want to do for your life, is it starting a business? Is it starting, are you going to trade? And is it like, oh, I want to get out of there and do something new? Is it creating something online? Is it like coaching other people? Like what is that? Is it running like big events? Whatever you get super excited for. To find, it doesn't have to be any of those things, they're just example, to find the power of creativity. So that's one thing that I think is awesome, because for me, for example, when I got really motivated for doing podcasts, I got all this creative energy. I started writing out all these things. I started reading a lot more. I started writing things down, drawing diagrams, and then using them for my clients. And like, that's magic, really. So creativity just flew through me, which I find it's just amazing. To start the new foundations to create the new world for yourself. Using myself as an example here. So with this podcast, having 50 something episodes right now and impacting quite a lot of people, I've got like more clients. And that is the life that like I really want to live, because I love impacting people, consistently overcoming myself and inspiring others to do the same. And I work with them quite intimately. And there's a new world. I'm not far off of quitting my job, guys. Woo! So, yes, that's a really like important point to make, which I think is like really handy. And I'm going to leave you guys with a Friedrich Nietzsche quote, like before this. And that is, his quote is, only the doer learns, lose your goal, lose your way. Which I think summarizes like all of this in the hero's journey really easily. Only the doer learns. So you got to go out there and do the hero's journey. You got to figure it out. Lose your goal, lose your way. So like, what's your goal? What's the hero's journey you want to follow along? And then like only the doer learns, so go out and do the stuff. And then sort of, if you think about the hero's journey, have a look at it, Google it, figure it out. Where are you at? Like if you know your purpose and stuff, like where are you at in the hero's journey? Where are you getting called to something? Are you getting called to something? Are you fighting a dragon right now? Like where's the gold? Are you transforming? Are you doing stuff? Or you just need to really just accept that call, because you just keep getting signals everywhere around your life saying, do this, do this, do this. And you're like, no, it's too scary. Go out there and damn well do it. Big love, guys. Huge flex for you. Thank you for listening to this one. And if you liked it and if you get anything out of it, please share it just to one person or on your story, and I will love you forever. If you have any questions, send me some damn DMs. I'd love to answer it because this shit is my favorite shit in the whole world. Big love, guys. See you in the next one.